Lizzie Leader, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored. I
I'm
am
I'm s-
honored.
I'm so glad. I'm so excited to talk to you today because I do know that you've been up to some really interesting things post graduation that I'd love to talk to you about. But I think we have to start with maybe the honestly one of the craziest, most random stories in my entire life involves you and I.
But it's random or is it? That's
Right,
the thing.
totally.
Fate,
Exactly.
you decide. Yeah.
Exactly.
I love it. Let's start there.
Okay. Talk to me about your side of this story.
Okay, well, do you remember was it like 2012?
It
What
was
year was it?
2012. It was
Okay.
2012. Yeah.
Um I was on a trip throughout Asia. In different legs, I traveled with different people. I started out actually in Burma with fellow CMCer Kylie, also
Shout out to
class
Kylie also from.
also class of 2009, and Burma had just opened for the first time
Right.
in decades.
Right.
So that was an adventure. Just like to set the scene, they didn't have ATM machines or credit card machines. You have to bring all your
Right.
cash that you need in the trip. So like that's what we're dealing with. And imagine my surprise when through a series of events, I ended up with Kylie at a rural Burmese brewery where there were about 10 other folks that were like embassy staffers, one of whom's husband went to CMC and could not
Crazy.
stop talking about CMC and goes to all the reunions. And I'm like, we are in the middle of nowhere
Yeah.
in a brewery in Burma, and there's a CMC connection. But
Right.
then the next country on my itinerary was Vietnam, and I can't remember, was it through like Facebook geotagging? How did we put together that we were proximate?
So my side of the story, and just a heads up, your microphone is, if you could
Oh,
put
do
it
I
more,
need it
you're
close?
totally good. Now you're great. You're great.
Okay, okay, okay.
Um, my side of the story is I had worked in Vietnam actually as some sort of, oh God, I forget the name of the like scholarship they gave you for a summer, but I was one of those in between junior and senior year, completely fell in love with Vietnam. I know you studied abroad in
Hmm.
Vietnam, and I had been a consultant for a number of years, had so many miles that were going to expire, and I took my family to Vietnam. And I my favorite place in Vietnam that I ever went is Hoi An. And for those that don't know, Hoi An is I don't really want to call it a city. It's really more like a town, maybe.
Yeah,
In
it's quaint and
It's
charming.
quaint
Yeah.
and charming, and it has amazing food, and it's where you can get some tailored suits made for really cheap, and there's a beach, and it's just absolutely lovely. And and my parents and I were in Hoi An for I think like 2 days because I wanted to show them around and all this kind of stuff.
And I was
And
with my mom, not
you
to
were with
interrupt,
your
but
mom.
because I had brought my mom back having fallen in love with Vietnam while studying abroad. So
Right,
it's great.
right.
Yeah.
And I remember like us checking into the hotel and like, when you check into a hotel, you got to kick your feet up for like 5 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, of course.
And log on to Facebook, probably on like my iPhone 3 or whatever. And oh my God, Lizzie Leader like checked in to like has like a photo tagged her with her mom on the beach in Hoi An, which is 250 feet from where I am right now. And I like my mind was completely blown. What are the odds of this?
Yeah,
And
like what
then
what simulation is this?
what simulation is this? I'm happy with this simulation to be very clear. But what simulation is this? And then I think I must have DM'd you on Facebook and
I
was
think
like,
so.
"Hey, are you actually in Hoi An, Vietnam right now?"
Yeah. And turns out, and we met up, right?
We
Did we
met
get we
up.
got a meal together, and then so here's the other thing: is this a fever dream, or keep me honest? Did this
Yeah.
happen? Did we then separately, not by plan, like actually run into each other, like bump into each other subsequently at the Seoul airport in Korea
Oh my
briefly?
God, you know what we did? I think we did.
Like just
Yes.
like
Yes.
we
Yes.
had no
Yes.
sense that we were were both there.
Oh my God, no, totally. Oh
Like
my God, I
what?
completely forgot about that, but you're right.
What are
You
the chances? Again,
What
for
are
that
the
happening
odds?
twice in
Right.
two different
Right.
countries.
Right. Oh
Yeah.
my God, I had totally forgotten about that.
Well,
I mean,
I may just be making this up. Is this like
no,
the
you're not making
Mandela
this up.
effect? Okay.
You're 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 you're
I
you're not
dreamt
making
it.
this up. You're not making this up. Honestly, there has been like a Reddit thread. I'm a lurker for
Same.
CMC'09 and for those who are possibly listening.
Oh, I'm
Uh,
just a general lurker on everything. So
yeah, me
great.
and you both. Me making this podcast, I'm scared. It's going to be the first time I'm like not lurking. I'm really honestly scared.
No.
Um, and anyway, there's like been a thread that I've seen sometimes that's been like, what's the craziest coincidence that's ever happened to you? And every time I see that, I think of you because
Oh,
I'm like, truly, it's like Hoi An is not as remote as Burma. I'll give you that. But like Hoi An, pretty freaking remote.
yeah.
And like the odds of us both being there, us meeting up. I had dinner with your mom. I came to your hotel. We had
Yes,
dinner. The
that's
beach was
right.
lovely. Your mother is lovely.
Oh,
We had
glad
drinks.
so lucky. So
And then yeah, we ran into each other again 7 days later in the Seoul airport, and that was like just one of those crazy, mind blowing. That's like, yes, Claremont is obviously the best college in the country, but also the smallest. And
oh,
despite it being the smallest, you find Claremont people just absolutely everywhere.
that's the thing. Like, what I love about that example, and this is the most extreme example, but
Yeah,
based on CMC's actual size and the size of its alumni network, it's the magnitude and the frequency with which it shows up in my life is so disproportionate in
totally,
scale.
totally.
Um, but and it's also like I remember when I first moved to DC after graduating. There's still people when you say Claremont McKenna, they're like, I've never heard of it. It's a community
Right,
college. Although, like, I always argue, if you know, you know, like, because
right,
those that did know, they
right,
knew,
right,
right?
right.
But yeah, the way that CMC people have shown up throughout my life, personally and professionally,
Yeah,
ever since leaving,
yeah,
is just amazing.
yeah.
And it feels special and unique. Maybe every small liberal arts college feels this way about its own, but
Yeah, I mean, look, I know other people that went to small liberal arts colleges. I do think that there is a character about a small liberal arts college person, such that they're like
yeah,
proud. But I also think that there's something even more special about
yeah,
Claremont, and
totally.
because to your point, it's like if you know, you know. What you're suggesting is that like it has this like borderline secret about it, and when you know the secret, it's like, oh
Right.
man, I'm on the
I
inside.
see you.
You know,
Yep.
exactly. And and it just like it punches above its weight, like I not that I'm like, stalking people or anything like that, but I see Claremont people in the news, especially even
No,
CMC'09, and it's like
totally.
I truly just well with pride,
No,
you
same.
know?
I bet you're talking. There's a couple that I can name, whether it's like Helena or
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, like yeah, with people with bylines. There's all sorts. Yeah.
Totally. I feel the same way. It's like, even though, just to pick on Helena, shout out to Helena, hello.
No love.
I haven't spoken to her in a very long time, and every time I see her, I do follow her
Right.
on Twitter. Every time I see a byline with her or her doing her thing, I am like, fuck yeah, go Helena, like yes,
No,
you
same. And
know.
Sahil.
And
Sahil, who's now?
right, so
Is he at NBC now?
Sahil, I don't know if he's at NBC or MSNBC. I
Okay, but
presume like,
he used to do CNN and be part of like the round table in the morning with maybe John King. And I just
oh,
would be like,
interesting.
when they would introduce him, I'd be like, yes,
Hell
get
yeah,
it.
hell
Love
yeah.
hot take, hot take.
I love it. I
Okay,
love
so I
it.
am. So I know what you mean about welling with pride, like in
Yeah.
from afar when they don't know you're looking.
Well, okay, so this is a good segue
Yeah.
because something that I am like really I would love for all of Claremont '09 to hear what you're up to. But
Okay.
one of the things that I actually feel pride about with you
Oh,
is I know that one of the things that you did was you hosted a podcast.
I did. Oh,
And
we're gonna cover
actually,
it.
just so that everyone's very clear with this, you are a big inspiration to me, period, full stop. But you're a big inspiration to me with respect to this project. And so shout out to Lizzie Leader for being a big reason why I'm doing this. But I would love for you to speak about what your podcast is. And I know it's been years since it's been, active, but like
Yeah.
talk to
Yeah.
me about what you did, because I think what you did is so cool.
So there's actually there's of course a major CMC through line. One of my very best friends to this day is Catherine Spada, who was the year above 2007, 8, sorry. Don't mean to age her up. Um, we lived my sophomore year. We both lived in Berger. And we joked that like the only reason we kind of accidentally became friends is like her real friends were abroad. And I was like, hey, but she walked past my single one day and just to date ourselves, like obviously there wasn't streaming.
Right.
It's DVDs. Like I think
Right.
maybe like ABC Go was in beta our senior year, but like it was analog. So people had these DVD sets. Like instead of Netflix and chill, I felt people were like, I have the series of 24. Want to come over? You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had multiple seasons of the original Beverly Hills 90210. And so cut to Burger, and Kat happened to be walking past my dorm, and she heard wafting the opening melody that, for those who know and are a fan of the show, is so beloved. And so I think she was like, knocked on the door, introduced herself, asked to borrow them.
Yeah.
And then like I leached onto her, and all of our other friends were gone. So we've been friends ever since.
That's amazing.
When I moved back to LA, I first was in DC for several years after graduation. I came back to LA and Kat was here. I lived in Mid City and she lived in Glendale, which, like, for those familiar with Los Angeles, it might as well be other countries. Like, you
Yeah.
really have to work at
Yeah.
making plans in Los Angeles. So she had the idea, and I really have to credit her because I knew nothing. I didn't know this was possible. Podcasts were just becoming a thing. Like, Serial wasn't out yet. This was 2014. And she suggested that we do a podcast rewatching the original Beverly Hills 90210 and discussing it together. And honestly, how we approached it, like, we did not think our parents would listen,
Right.
let
Right.
alone why would strangers want to hear our take? But it was like a scheduled hangout, if nothing
Yeah.
else, around
Yeah.
like an activity that we both loved or something that
Yeah.
was meaningful to both of us.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think we were probably benefited because it was early on in podcasting. And so sometimes we just would shoot our shot and reach out to different people associated with the show.
Right.
And sometimes they'd say yes. So, like, halfway through the first season, we became pretty close with Chuck Rosen, who was
Oh,
actually
wow.
the show's executive producer.
Wow.
And he started contributing there after segments to every episode. It was called
Wow.
Chuck's Corner, where he would give like a behind the scenes dish. And he was
Yeah.
ready to spill, I gotta say.
Yeah.
And like,
I love this.
this was a show of teenagers. There was
Yeah.
stuff that went down. I don't know if I
Yeah.
can swear. Stuff went down.
Yeah.
So with his contribution and some of the guests we had, then we developed, I mean, like, it's relative. Like a passionate following within fans of a show that first aired in 1991. Okay, so this is like, you know, a subculture of a subculture. We were,
Yeah.
it's not like we were, you know, topping the charts by any means. But yeah, we had a good little following. And honestly, it just started as a passion project between a dear friend from Claremont and myself.
I so love that. If I recall correctly, you also got some like DMs from some stars like that were on the show being like, "Hey, I'd love to come on."
Yeah, we did have some. The one, I think that the biggest, we've had quite a few stars, but I think the biggest was probably Jason Priestley. And we were really nervous for that.
Sure.
Yeah, oh, and then we actually did a live reading of like probably one of the most seminal episodes where it's, for those who know, it's the Donna Martin Graduates episode. She gets drunk at prom. That's Tori Spelling's character.
Ooh.
And so she's not going to be able to graduate, which feels like a reasonable consequence. But like all of the students take to the streets with signs that says, Donna Martin graduate. Like this is their cause, right?
Yeah, right.
And we did a live reading for charity. And actually, we had some younger stars come, like people that are, more contemporary or on YouTube or whatever, but we did have Gabrielle Carteras, who you may know, who played Andrea in the original show and was SAG president at the time.
Yeah.
She came back and took on one of the like parental roles, so that was fun. Yeah.
That's so cool.
So, but honestly, the most fun part about it is every guest we ask their 90210 journey, and it really run the gamut from. There's actually the Venn diagram with Sports Bros. I think we've talked about this in 90210. Is actually decent, right? Bill Simmons. We have on Ben Lyons. We had the Kaminsky brothers.
Wow.
Like Lakers reporting, and they all are big 90210 fans.
People. Yeah. Well, it was such a like important look. I'll be honest. I wasn't the biggest 90210 fan, but it was such a like a big zeitgeist show. You know what I mean? Like you could say, I mean, obviously I know it's in the title of the show, but like everyone knows the zip code of Beverly Hills, right? And like everyone knows that probably opening melody, and you're like loosely aware of the characters and all this kind of stuff. You know, like I've not been a big watcher of the show. Every name you mentioned, I can picture, you know?
Well, and we often reflected on the show. Both Kat and I probably watched it at an inappropriately young age, but we both had older sisters, which are the great 90210 gateway.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh.
and so they dealt with a lot of heavy topics for
Yeah.
primetime television,
Yeah.
from like AIDS to drug abuse to
Sure.
sexual assault to getting drunk at prom.
Right. Right.
I mean, I was watching it so young that Wednesdays were the one night in the beginning where I was allowed to stay up past my 8 p.m. bedtime to watch 90210. So like, but it taught me a lot. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people learned like, life lessons for
Yeah.
better or for worse from that show. So
Totally. So that's a really cool passion project, but I
yes.
also do want to give other O9ers an update on like your broader journey since Claremont.
Yeah.
So you had made mention that you started, I think, after graduation in DC. What brought you to DC? What brought you back to LA? Like, talk to me about your journey.
Yeah, I'll try and be brief because there are a lot of stops along the way. I was an international relations major, and you know, like it was a rough year to graduate. I think
Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
people forget with some
Yeah.
distance, but it was 2009, right after the 2008 financial collapse. And so I don't feel like as many people from our year graduated with jobs that like otherwise we would have seen in years prior, maybe like right out the gate, right? It's like my consulting contract in hand. A
Yeah.
good amount
Right.
did,
Right.
but Ashley Green and I decided just to move to DC. We didn't really have a job or a place to live, and we had actually heard it's impossible to apply remotely for jobs. You got to be there available
Yeah.
that afternoon for the interview. Um, so yeah, the October after graduation, we moved there together.
Wow.
Um,
Shout out to Ashley
and
Green, by the way, real quick.
yes, yeah, and there were a lot of other CMCers from our year making that same move. Helena lived there, Kylie lived there,
Right.
Kendall
Right.
Snyder.
Oh my
Um,
God. Yeah.
yeah, so my first real job, like career type job, I guess I
Yeah.
would say, was at the Council on Foreign Relations,
Wow.
which is the think tank.
Big
And
deal.
yeah, I mean, yeah, in some circles.
You're being humble. That's a pretty big deal. That's a pretty big deal.
Oh, thank you. No, it was amazing to work there.
Yeah.
I assisted a couple of the research fellows. I primarily focused on Southeast Asia, which is probably
Yeah.
not a surprise given our earlier conversation. I also help with the task force, which are like individual topic based sort of special sessions. And I actually worked on one related to education as a national security issue that was chaired by Condoleezza Rice, which was pretty
Oh,
cool.
cool. Really cool.
Um, and yeah, so I was there for a couple of years. I think I didn't necessarily, how do I put this? So I was open to my career taking me anywhere, but I think at that point, and with the international relations major, I really did see myself doing something related to government or foreign affairs. And I don't know if this was young naivete or lack of experience. It never occurred to me that, oh, I may not see myself in DC for the long run. And then
Mm,
what does that mean for
mm,
that career
totally.
path?
Totally.
I had the best years there. It's a really fun place to be a young person. Uh, but I realized like I didn't see myself there for beyond a couple years. And so then what does that look like? Like, is it possible to continue this from the West Coast? And probably not.
Yeah.
So I actually found an opportunity to come back to Los Angeles that actually combined a lot of my interests, and it was in film finance. Probably to the dismay of both communities. I always say I think that Hollywood and DC are actually a ton like
Sure.
very similar.
Yeah.
We just have better weather on this side.
Yeah.
So I was working for like a private equity backed media fund that was mostly focused on entertainment franchises with international appeal, but specifically that could be done as co-productions with China, which I know sounds hyper specific, but it was like a really hot thing at the time.
Yeah.
This was like post Mummy 2, pre Great Wall. Like,
Oh,
oh,
wow. Yeah, sure.
China's such a big film market, but it's very hard to get imported films shown there and shown widely.
Mm,
And there are blacked out dates for local films, and so the co-production route is like a way to circumvent that and get treated as local.
yeah.
But easier said than done because it has to be co-financed, co-produced. with Chinese entities, shot in China, feature authentic Chinese elements. And the part that is the through line is like most of the major studios, at least at the time in China, were state owned. So I actually felt like I wasn't the work I was doing. It was
Yeah,
different, but
sure.
like I don't know
Yeah.
this. It's the same sort of like
This is foreign relations,
it's
totally.
for and
Yeah.
personality management, like
Yeah.
just through a different lens. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's how I kind of made the pivot back to California. And I did that for a couple of years, and then I realized that like to a third party looking in, I seem to have had the most schizophrenic journey. It all makes sense in my mind, but
It makes sense to me. So far, everything is tracking, Lizzie.
after doing that a couple of years, I in January 2017, I was given the opportunity to be the first employee at a investment startup that was focused on investments in the esports and gaming space called Axiomatic, and it was primarily founded and financed by uh, traditional sports owners. So a funny thing is when you're in esports, what you call like stick and ball sports is traditional sports, like baseball, basketball.
Yeah.
So a bunch of traditional sports owners got together and realized that there was a sea change in terms of younger audiences and their consumption preferences. And so they pooled their money together to invest in esports and gaming. And the first major investment we made was acquiring a majority stake in an esports organization or team called Team Liquid.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, I've been here for seven. I've been here
That's
for 7
amazing.
years.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
I mean, I don't even know if people. Should I just say what esports are really quickly? Because I find
Yeah,
that there's
please. Sure. I know
a
what they
lot of
are, but for the broader audience.
well, a lot of people, and this is totally fair. A lot of times, people think that I'm talking about like EA Sports, or that I'm
Mm.
specifically speaking about like the video game port of a traditional sports title, so like the Maddens or the
Yeah.
MLB Show.
Yeah.
And esports is just it's any professional competitive gaming with an audience.
Yeah.
But it's not actually in for the most part in those traditional sports titles. It's in console and PC games and some
Mm.
mobile like League of Legends, Dota,
Sure.
Counter
Sure.
Strike, Valorant, Smash Brother. Smash is one that I feel like everybody's like,
Most people, yeah,
yeah,
totally.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So and I'm in
That's
Team
so
Liquid's
cool.
offices today in the Spider-Man themed war room.
Very, very colorful office. I'll tell
Yeah,
you that. For
yeah.
those just listening, there's cool stuff in the background.
Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot.
No,
Yeah.
no, no, no.
Should
It's
I do
also going
like
to be
an
on video. Don't you worry.
auditory
No,
tour?
no, no, no. Don't you worry.
Yeah. So yeah, I've been in esports for 7 years, which feels like a lifetime because it's a very fast moving Wild West type industry, but it's been a
Sure.
lot of fun. And
Yeah.
um, again, I think there's like a real international relations aspect to it. I'm in charge of communications and investor relations, and I feel like so often what I do involves translating, on the one hand, like the gamers that run Team Liquid, for example, are
Yeah.
Gen Z, some even bordering on alpha at this point, but very, very young.
Yeah.
Um, and then I have, on the other hand, these gentlemen billionaires who own sports teams in their 80s,
Yeah.
and kind of like helping to facilitate the dialogue and the knowledge exchange between those two disparate demos is a
Yeah.
lot of fun.
It seems like look, I'll be honest with you. I am a sports fan and I played
Yeah,
video games
me too.
growing up, but I'm not tuning in to watch the Counter-Strike championships or what
Yeah.
have you. But I'm like aware of them in a way that like 10 years ago, I was not really aware of them. Um, you know, my like understanding is, which is by the way, very limited, is that like some of these ratings for these championships are like as big as the NBA finals, the Stanley
Yes.
Cup. Yeah. So this is like a big market.
So for sure, the qualifier, it's not always, trust me, we love to make those claims too, especially like in
Sure.
a sales deck. I think what sets esports apart is it's truly global in nature. There's not
Sure.
the same sort of regional affinities for the most part. So we have audiences all over the world, which is, I think, mostly a benefit. In some ways, it's a hindrance because there isn't like that built-in
Yeah.
loyalty. You have to earn it, but we also have no limitations. So
Yeah.
I say that to say that like you're right, the League of Legends finals has outperformed consistently, like game 7 of an average NBA final. But you have to keep
Crazy.
in mind that that includes a huge part of that is the Chinese audience,
Sure.
and it's a global audience even with NBA's various international rights deals, like the way that their broadcasting is set up, it simply couldn't achieve. I don't think if it wanted to kind of pull
Yeah.
in the same numbers. There's like
Yeah.
limitations in terms of accessibility.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the one caveat I'd give. But yes, we're punching up at that same weight, or we like to think that we are.
One of the things I also have to make mention about like our relationship, I'm not even sure you really remember this, is I had like DM'd you a while ago because you're in the gaming world and both my father and I were COVID had happened and we
Oh
were
no, I
looking for like
remember this. I'm so
better
excited.
we were looking for better desk chairs. And I like pinged you like, hey, been a while. Like, what do you know about like chairs that are comfortable to sit in for hours? And I kid you not, the chair that you recommended like changed my life. And my
Right?
dad uses all the time. It changed his life. So like every
Changed
time,
my dad's life too. When you
totally. Well,
DM
you and
me,
I,
I had just gotten one to my dad, and he was like, "My life's changed." Yeah,
yes. So my
yeah.
dad is also very grateful to you for the chair, and I need
Oh
to make mention of that. And I am as well. Like definitely help with my lumbar support. So shout
no,
out to Lizzie Leader
it's
for that.
I recommend it for everyone as an office solution. You don't have to be a
Yeah,
gamer.
it's
Like
true.
it's great.
True.
They're pricey, but you get what you pay for.
I'm gonna make us instead of so I
Okay.
appreciate you walking me through the journey. I want to go back in time and talk
Okay.
about some years at Claremont.
Okay.
Tell me what's your favorite memory from Claremont?
Oh, stop. You know what? I knew you were going to ask me that, and I can't. How would I possibly pick just
I know
one
that's fair.
memory?
I'll take
Give
multiple
me,
if you have
give me, give me.
multiple.
I'll just give me something else, and then we'll
Okay,
I'll build the
yeah.
memories around it. Like I don't even. Where would I possibly start? You know.
I'll tell you what. I have a
Well, what's
series of.
yours? Have you shared yours yet? Oh, see, there you
Yeah, see,
go.
no, I haven't. I'll have to think about that.
You got to give it
Um,
a category. You know.
yeah, that's true. Okay, well, we can go back and forth on
Okay.
this then.
Okay.
I'll ask you something else. Favorite
Okay.
CMC class?
Okay. This one I thought about, and I have two answers. One that's a no-brainer, if I may, and then the other I think that would be surprising. So the no-brainer was Gov 101, which was U.S. Congressional Simulation with Professor
Oh,
Pitney.
sure.
And I want to give a shout out to Marco De La Torre, who
Love
I
that.
somehow roped in to making a guest appearance. Well, let me back up and say I was assigned the role of Kit Bond, who was a Republican senator from the Show Me state of Missouri. And so I brought in Marco. I don't even think Marco was in the class. I just was like, yo, like, I need you to guest for a bit at this mock hearing session in which he played the role of an Alaskan native who was super gung ho about drilling in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge.
Mm,
Really
mm.
sold it. Really sold it. So that class, I mean, like, it did you ever take that? Did you take,
No,
oh,
no, I know.
I learned a ton, obviously,
Yeah.
about how the legislative branch works and so much more. But I think why that class stuck with me is it's emblematic of what I see as like the much larger value of my time at CMC.
Mm,
And that is that I think that I probably learned more, as much, if not more, from engaging with people with opposing viewpoints to my own, or in
mm,
this case,
mm,
embodying them as a senator,
mm, mm.
than I ever would have just surrounding myself with like-minded peers. And
Yeah.
that feels more important now. I mean, I don't mean to be cheesy, but
No, totally. I agree
but
with
like
you.
now than ever, like to be
Yeah,
able to engage in civil discourse and the relative safety of an academic environment is such an important starting point
totally.
towards like combating, the kind of polarization that we see today. So
I
I feel
love
like,
that
yeah,
answer.
that's
That's a
the
great
lesson, the
answer.
takeaway from Congress. Like I now get what it's like to be an elderly Republican senator from Missouri. I've walked in those shoes, and I see you.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's amazing. That's amazing.
Um.
Um,
Oh, the other. Can I just say the other one that would surprise
please,
you?
please, yeah.
I took it on a whim for fun. Like it was Lit 135, which was actually a film course, and it was
Mm,
just called Alfred Hitchcock by Professor Jim Morrison.
mm,
And like weirdly, that sounds so specific, but I don't know. I still think about things we discussed in that class all the time. Like, I love celeb goss.
right, of
And
course.
I remember Professor Morrison teaching us that, like, even though Hitchcock used Jimmy Stewart and Cary Grant interchangeably, He personally preferred Jimmy Stewart because he was threatened by Cary Grant's masculinity. Jimmy Stewart was who he saw himself as. Cary Grant
Interesting.
was who he wanted to. No, right? I like think about it
Interesting.
still.
Yeah.
But okay, I'm rambling. Can I just say one last
Of
side note
course. No,
about
we
this?
got all the time in the world, Lizzie. Yeah.
It's and bear with me. It's a related anecdote, and I promise it circles back to not only CMC but Hitchcock
Yeah.
because it's about a class that I wish I had taken it. So
Yeah.
my on-campus job junior and senior year was to be an MTA, media technology assistant, which is basically just, if you'll recall, plugging in projectors or starting movies for
Yeah, of
professors and
course.
presenters. So women in tech.
Yeah, love that.
I am her.
Yeah.
And one night I responded to an assignment. I had to go to Pickford Auditorium to pop in a DVD for someone.
Yeah.
So I show up. It's not somebody that I'd recognized or a professor I was familiar with, but it was Mort Saul.
Oh my
Who?
God.
No,
Oh my God. Of
I have so
course.
much to
I
say.
know Mort
Well,
Saul.
you say of course, but like a lot of people, some people might
Okay.
not know,
For
and
the
I didn't
listeners,
appreciate
tell
it.
us.
So so he is a legendary comedian. He was also
Yeah.
JFK's speechwriter, but what
Yeah.
he I think is probably best known for is innovating in stand-up comedy during the Cold War era and injecting political critique. He was like the Jon Stewart before Jon Stewart,
Yeah,
right?
sure. Yeah.
So lo and behold, I guess at age 80 in 2008, he came and taught for 2 years at Claremont. I think he was
That's right.
technically maybe a Gould Center
I
distinguished
don't know.
visitor.
But I remember the announcement when he was made a professor, and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. This is
Yeah, what?
incredible.
And when I went, I did not get the impression that the people that were in the auditorium that were his students necessarily understood his relevance or who he was.
Yeah.
So the DVD he had me pop in. You're gonna love this. So I show up and it's Birds. He wants to show Alfred
Oh
Hitchcock's
my God.
Birds. Put the DVD in, boot the baby up, all's good. And he turns to me, he says, "Thanks, pal." And then out of nowhere, with regards to the star of that movie, Tippi Hedren, he goes, Tippi and I used to go together, and sometimes we'd even neck in her convertible. And then walked
Oh
away.
my God. Incredible drop by Mort Saul.
And I never saw it again. And first of all, I did not know. I didn't see the announcement. I didn't know he was teaching classes. And I think in that moment, I probably did not appreciate what an icon he is.
Yeah.
And so, like, one of my only regrets as it relates to CMC is that I didn't take a class from him because I can only imagine.
Sure.
Yeah. So, and he used to go with Tippi Hedren. So there you
Wow.
have it. That's the
Wow.
insider scoop.
That's the insider scoop. Just a couple decades after it happened, but hey,
Yeah.
we'll take it any way we can get it.
Yeah. Is that a good one?
Those are really really good ones. Those are great memories. The next question I was going to ask is favorite professor.
It is different. It's
Yeah,
Jen
talk to me.
Ta. Did you ever have Jennifer Ta?
Oh my God, Jen Ta, of course. She was great.
Such a badass.
She was IR.
And I took her security strategies class. For those who aren't familiar, prior to teaching, she spent, I think, close to a decade at Rand Corp.
Right.
And I hope I'm getting this right, and it's the correct international incident. But I want to say, like, she and her team at Rand had written a report in the mid-90s that basically predicted and identified vulnerabilities in U.S. embassies in Africa. And it was like right 2 years later, in 98, the U.S. embassy bombings in Tanzania and Kenya occurred that she had like foreseen and warned about. She's just like a badass. But
yeah,
for better or for worse, her class also sticks with me to this day. Like, for instance, at the 2013 Super Bowl when the power went out at the Superdome.
Yeah.
I'm at a party and I'm the only one that's like, it's happening. It's a this attack. This is my. I think of everything in terms of like security risks and soft targets to this
I love
day.
this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks to Jen Ta. It's probably not healthy. But that's where my mind goes. I'm like, we should have known.
That's amazing.
Jen Ta.
That's amazing.
That's Who's
great.
Yours? Can I ask you? I'm sorry, and like maybe you've gone over this before.
No,
so
I haven't. So I'll answer some of these. I mean, and I'll go. I don't want to say like in quick rapid succession. But look, I was a PPE major, and I had a really special connection with Ward Elliott.
Yeah.
Like spiritual connection, and I always felt that he was this guy. You know, obviously he's like larger than life figure, and I feel like he would make these jokes that only I understood. And I felt like I was in on his joke. And his like joke was, he just wants us all to get along. Like he wanted
Oh.
us all to be like best friends for life. And he accomplished that. And there were so many things that he um honestly, there's not a day goes by where I don't think of him.
Hmm.
And like truly, and I think of him every day, like personally as a
Yeah.
human being, and like he's a real hero of mine. And I also think of things I learned in his class every day, and I see his class every day, right? Like, um, my PPE class will make fun of me, but we each had these like take home topics that we had to teach the class on, if you will,
Hmm.
right? So like, and mine was on population and food policy.
Hmm.
And I like got really into food policy for like a hot week, but it's something that I've thought of all the time. And I like became obsessed with corn subsidies, as random as it sounds.
Wow. No,
And like, like
totally. I
now with
get it.
like all the Huberman stuff and like, people
Mm-hmm.
trying to eat well, like you just see food everywhere, right? Like, and
Mm-hmm.
you see the impacts of corn and all this kind of stuff. And so I like learned a ton of actually
Yeah.
great material from him, but I learned so much about life from him too. And I just always felt that you know, he's the kind of guy that I genuinely think had a connection with every single one of his students. So in this way, I'm not unique at all. But I also feel like um, we have a little bit of shared DNA and we saw the world a little bit the same way. Like
Mm-hmm.
me doing this, just connecting with people, I think is like
Yeah.
he's looking down from above, very happy that I'm doing this. And it's
I
like
agree.
a big testament to him. I'll just mention a couple others because I was PPE. Professor Hurley, incredible,
Mm-hmm.
amazing. Can't say enough good things about him. Professor Blomberg, no longer with Claremont, but he
Mm.
was the art, third PPE
Yeah.
professor. He was the E of PPE. And then there is a professor I gave a shout out to on a previous podcast, and that's Professor Racy, who again I think of him every day and what I learned in his
I
class.
don't know if I know that. What did he teach?
Philosophy,
Okay.
philosophy. Um, and like he was just phenomenal, and he like turned me and so many of my friends onto philosophy and like loved it. Nathan Barrymore,
Oh.
Simon Shogri,
Oh.
so many people. The last one, I'll mention two more just really quickly. I took a class my senior year called America in Depression and War by Diana Selig. And
Oh.
I thought that she's not someone I've kept in touch with. Maybe she listens to this. Love to, get back in touch.
Shout out,
Shout
Professor.
out. Totally. It was phenomenal. And it made me regret having not been a history major. Like
Mm.
I want to be, I should have been PPE and history, I think,
Mhm.
because I've never been in a class where I devoured the reading, devoured.
Wow.
And I think of her all the time, honestly.
Oh.
Um, and then, Pitney, of course. I also had a
Yeah.
freshman professor, Christina Sessa. Um,
Oh, I don't know.
so I could go on for days about the Claremont
Yeah.
professors. I mean, I adore them, truly adore them. So, and there's
Mm.
probably some I'm even forgetting.
Totally.
But yeah. Okay,
Especially.
we're gonna keep.
Okay.
We're got some
Okay.
other
Let's go.
questions.
Okay. Okay. Hit me.
Um, favorite CMC party?
That's another one where it's like, how do you choose? I have again a two for answer. I just because
Talk to
I
me.
can never be straightforward. So probably the most salient memory among parties, positive salient memory would be our 601 freshman year. Just,
601 is my
I mean,
oh totally.
is that your because? And I know that
That's my
that's so
answer.
like that's so obvious, but I just
No, there was nothing
I
better.
distinctly visually remember that there was at least if I'm recalling correctly a ice luge
Yes,
in the numbers of 601, and
that's
I
correct.
feel like, and I hope I'm not calling anybody out, but I feel like I like walked up on John Veranda taking a pull from the 601 ice luge, and I was like, I'm at college, it's all
Yeah,
happening, this is
yeah,
life, like it
yes.
was one of those moments. But my most memorable party, it's not a good memory
Uh-oh.
for me and Jordan Stewart, would be Pirate Party our junior year,
Okay.
because if you'll recall with so both Jordan and I were RAs. RAs
Yes.
actually, you become an RA spring break of junior year so that you
Yes.
relieve the senior RAs to be free in the remaining weeks on campus. And
Yes.
that was the first weekend that either Jordan or I were on call. There's always 4 RAs in a given weekend that have to stay on campus at all times to be
Okay.
readily available to respond to
Yeah.
emergent crises.
Yeah.
I hope that, look, I hope there's enough times passed I'm not getting anyone in trouble, but
Statute of limitations. I think we're okay.
the organizers of the party, which I believe were in our class, submitted receipts to Claremont for reimbursement that suggested they had purchased cakes, which was a permissible use of funds.
Yes.
Those were fake receipts, and as it turns out, they used those funds and then some to just straight up buy handles of Captain Morgan that were
Mouse.
freely passed throughout North Quad, and also the inflatable moon bounce that was there.
Oh, of course.
And it was wild. And like neither Jordan nor I think I can speak for her and say, like, we didn't sign up to be an RA because we like to enforce. Like,
Right, totally.
This is
I don't
our
think of you two as enforcers.
Like, I just want to help freshmen. Like, it was a night. Like, I couldn't even. I could spend a whole podcast of like each of these small fires that we put out. There was almost a literal fire in which,
oh my God,
some inebriated gentlemen from Pomona had taken one of the lit tiki torches, and were waving it around and came this close to setting one of the oak trees in North Quad on fire. And anyways, this was my first weekend.
Oh my God.
Jordan and I were like trying our best. We were just like, hi, could you not?
Yeah.
But I think everybody else had a lot of fun at that party. But it sticks out for me as a memory, for better or worse.
I was on campus last February for a Ward Elliott memorial party, and I got a chance to talk to some on campus students, and to a person, when I asked, hey, what's your favorite party? They said Pirate Party. Everyone said Pirate Party. Yeah. And in fact, I will this is on a different episode, but the originator of the Pirate Party I have on this show. So
that is okay. Nice tease. I think that they now, or in more recent years, they did it like on alumni weekend, right? But this was different. Yeah, so it was different because there was also like the gated luncheon on Green Beach, and then the shenanigans, but we were insulated. This was just for current students on a random spring weekend when I'm referring to, and it was wild, to put it mildly.
It is a very wild party. There's so many, honestly, there's so many good potential answers. So my answer is also 601, because 601, everyone's back on campus. It's like warm out. It's like you can talk about your summer. It just like feels like a summer barbecue. It's also like, it was slightly darty-ish, right? Day party, right? It was like, because 601.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And like you, our freshman year 601 party is like ingrained in my memory forever. And I have two memories of it. And I think I actually have photographic evidence of this. And I also don't want to get anyone in trouble. Was how like the New Year's Eve in New York, they have the ball drop. I'm pretty sure that we had
there was a countdown.
We had a keg drop. And I remember being like, this is the most amazing college
it's like out of a movie
in the world. And similar to you, maybe remembering John Ferrando, who knows, doing an ice luge. I swear to you, I'm not going to out this administrator because I care about this person, but I swear to you.
I care about John Ferrando for the record.
No, of course. No, of course. But John Ferrando is untouchable,
Yes, agree.
I don't know how untouchable other people are. I swear to you, an administrator handed me a beer. And I'm like 18, 19. And it was just like, welcome to the show. And I was like, this is amazing. But you're like, look, there's foam party, there's pirate party, there is
although there was a pink eye outbreak one year, maybe like sophomore year, foam party.
There was like MRSA, pink eye. There was all sorts of outbreaks of that one. That was a petri dish. I was also a fan of TNCs. A little bit more low key, more my speed.
I was more because I'm South Quad. Like, I wish I could do this fast enough. That's my South Quad. So I was more of a Cabrones party gal.
Right. Yes, I remember that about
TNC
you.
as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shout out to the Cabrones.
Hell yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we've kind of look. I'll take other favorite memories, but I feel like we've talked about good memories. So if any other ones came to mind, I'll give a quick one for my own, just because we're talking about things. Whoa, did you do a whoa trip?
So I didn't, and I don't know why I missed the memo. Like, I don't know. I think I thought it was like really optional. I did not. I regret. That's probably my other regret next to Mortsall. Like, I didn't realize how much participation there would be and how formative it would be.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. It sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, it's one of those things where it's like, shout out to Santa Cruz 2005. Whoa, by the way. But like, it was, it's where I met so many of my dearest friends, and like, it was deeply formative, and I also just need to give a quick shout out to Doug Fagan, my roommate throughout college.
Oh,
Like, so many favorite memories with him.
yes.
And like, I could just talk for days about my happy memories of Claremont, because it's
Totally.
truly.
That's why I was like, don't ask me
Yeah,
for
I
one.
know.
They're
Yeah, okay.
endless
No, this
and
was good
unique.
feedback. This was good
But
feedback.
one of my closest friends still, and I don't know if you're going to ask me who I'm still in touch with, but
Yes, that was going to be my next question.
it's my freshman year roommate as well, Debbie John.
Oh my gosh.
Still
How's
friend
Debbie
of friends.
doing?
She's great.
Good.
She's a mother and an anesthesiologist, and
Wow.
has the same
Badass.
dry humor as ever. So
Yeah,
she's great.
that's amazing.
Yeah, and this kind of goes back to what makes CMC special, like we talked about up top.
Yeah,
I also feel like I'd say of my closest friends today, I guess that maybe about 2/3 of them are Claremont people.
totally.
But here's the unique thing: of those 2/3, I'd guess if I had a ballpark, like at least a third, if not more, are people that I actually wasn't even close with in college, and I
Yeah.
formed connections with post graduation, which is kind of incredible, right? Or
That's
maybe not,
no.
but
I don't know my own proportions, but I have a similar phenomenon where, like, I'm really close with people that I wasn't close with
yeah,
in college, and I think it's such a beauty of
totally.
Claremont. And honestly, I hope, we're talking about our 15-year reunion coming up, what have you. I hope that I make a new really good friend before our 20th or 25th or 30th, because, and I think that there's a real chance, because the Claremont people, they're hearts of gold, just
Yeah.
absolute hearts of gold,
And doing cool things, and
doing cool things.
solid people.
There is one person that I did want to make a shout out to while I have you.
Okay. I'm
Chris
guessing.
Murphy.
Yes. Okay.
Chris Murphy, for those who may not recall, was only with us our freshman year, and then he transferred to Georgetown. And
He
I
lived in the
adore.
same dorm, Allen, as Debbie and I freshman year. And
Oh, did he really? Okay,
his roommate was John Sloat. The four of us
of
hung out
course,
together a lot. Yeah.
of course. And he's like, look at him. He's a guy who only went to school with us our freshman year, and I kid you not, God, this is almost 20 years later. Which, by the way, that's
crazy.
terrifying. 19 years later, love the guy. And
not only that, so I'm still close with Chris as you are, but I am
yeah.
arguably closer. This is what upset him. He introduced me to his younger sister Michelle, who lives in LA.
Oh my God,
see weekly. Yeah,
that's amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Well, you me and him have a good, sometimes
Yes.
dormant text thread going on, which I also love.
Yes. I think sometimes your and my combined, I think he probably loves us individually. I think I can recall some instances where our combined energy was
maybe
met
a
with
bit
some
much.
overwhelm. I don't know why. But shout out to Chris. He's a big
Shout out to
connector.
Chris.
Can I tell you who else I'm like
Please,
really
please.
Like,
I'm at the edge
I'm
of my
not just
seat.
gonna list like people that I'm legitimately close with. And the other amazing thing is they kind of span the classes. So I mentioned Kat Spada, and I would
Yes.
say both her and then Will Rebello, who was
Oh my God, of
2010,
course. Yeah.
I talk to daily, see weekly. Like,
Oh my
hands
God, that's
down.
amazing. Tell Will Rebello I say hi.
Oh, I sure will.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Like, I probably missed a text from him. We have a very, I can't say it, not suitable for work name to our text thread. I'll tell you after. Right up there is also Carmen Rosa Wishart.
Oh my God, of course. Yeah.
And among other things, she and I share, and speaking of, everybody watches women's sports. She and I share season tickets to Angel City FC, the women's soccer team in Los Angeles. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Very close with, as I mentioned, Debbie, Kylie also from. We talked about the Burma anecdote. She's my forever travel soulmate, and
love that.
I'm also close with Crystal Marsh from our year.
Oh my God, of course.
Who lives in Israel. And last year, like a year ago at this time, Crystal flew to London to meet Kylie and I, and we all went to Beyonce's Renaissance World Tour.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
And she flew in from Israel. Yeah.
I love that.
Just rounding out the list. Oh, Kenley Turville is one of my close. Not only is she a close friend, she's a member of my family, and I'm okay with it. I think she's arguably my dad's favorite daughter at this point, and it's okay. Like, I don't want to talk Pac-12 or Pac-4 or whatever it is, and they, she meets him there, and they have their own thing, and I adore Kenley. Kenley's in Houston. The last people that I talked to, like very regularly, close friends, Ashley Green.
Yeah.
From our year,
Ashley.
Jenny Bentley.
Oh my God, of course.
I think that Rebecca Park from A Year Below, and then there's people like you or Helena or Danielle
Yeah.
Diggins who I maybe speak with slightly less frequency, but I adore
Yeah.
just the same, and I'm always rooting for you all from afar. So those are my main peeps.
Well, I asked this question because I hope this podcast like spurs people I haven't talked to in 15 years to DM me and you
Yeah, I
and others,
know.
frankly, like
Yeah,
anyone, you know what I mean?
totally.
And I'm so glad also to hear that there are so many people that are still in touch with so many people, you know?
Totally. And like those are
Um,
all just disparate pockets of friends. I mean, there's some
super
overlap, but
disparate. No, super disparate. Yeah,
yeah,
totally.
they're just
Totally.
a special bunch. Okay, can I also now make an apology?
Of
This is a
course.
different than a shout out, but I need to use
Yeah.
this platform. There's
Yes, of
I'm not even
course.
kidding, something that's been eating at me.
Oh my God. I'm happy you would choose this show to apologize
Yeah, I was
publicly.
like, yeah, Dr. Phil was booked, so here we are. This apology goes out to probably the undisputed GOAT of the class of 2009, the one and only Camilo.
Oh,
And the last time I saw him, sometime last year, he called me out, rightfully so, at being the most unresponsive texter. And he's not wrong.
mm, mm,
He's not wrong, and it's not the first, or and it won't be the last time I've gotten that feedback. But the reason why that stuck with me, coming from Camilo, is like, yeah, he is such an amazing gem of a human being, and I literally eats at me like the idea that he should feel like he should know it's a privilege and an honor to receive correspondence from him, and the idea that I made it seem like anything but, even though it had
mm,
nothing to do with him. I'm not even kidding.
mm.
Eats at me. And so I just want to say, Camilo, I am sorry. Can I get back on like the distros for barbecue invites? You are incredible, and I apologize.
I'm
Camilo.
going to channel Camilo's energy, and I need to let you in a little secret. I'm
He's
talking to
joining.
Camilo.
He's in the
I'm
waiting room.
talking to Camilo in 25 minutes.
Stop it. You stop it.
I'm channeling his energy. The apology is accepted. The
Thank you.
apology is
Please.
accepted.
I feel so. I'm not even kidding. I get that all the time. People are like, "You're the worst." I am the worst with texting. When he said that to me, I was like, I really got to
Mm,
reevaluate my life choices, because he
totally.
is such a great guy and has been
Oh,
so
the
great at
best.
keeping in touch with all of us since
Totally.
graduation. So
Totally. Totally.
that's my legacy for this
Well,
this episode.
I'm so glad you chose this avenue
This forum
to
to
make
come
this. Yes,
clean.
exactly. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, we're running out of
Okay.
time. I have one last question
Okay.
because, of course, I want to spur people to DM you, DM me, like, and I hope anyone listening to this truly, whether it's even in Claremont or not, sees you, sees me, wants to
Okay.
talk, whatever. Finish this sentence.
Okay.
Someone should slide into my DMs to chat about.
Oh, that's a great question. That's a great question. Well, esports for one, but in terms of my personal passions, in no order, Beyonce, specifically Cowboy Carter, and the
Oh,
masterpiece that it
wow.
is.
We might need an episode 2 with you and I on
That's
this.
the multiple episodes. Hip hop B for
Yeah.
feuds, could be historical or current. Love both.
Mm, mm.
Celebrity gossip, as I mentioned, and or intellectually reasonable conspiracy theories.
Oh.
And in this specific moment of time, I would love to discuss the whereabouts of Kate Middleton and or Shohei Ohtani's former interpreter specifically. So hit me
By the
up.
way, do we know just because it's hip hop conspiracy and whereabouts, do we know where P. Diddy is right now? It's
Like I actually
Thursday,
don't want.
April
I don't want to
11th.
record. I know I don't
Yeah,
want to.
okay.
Like I
Okay.
actually
Right. I
don't
shouldn't
want.
have even
We'll
asked. I
talk
shouldn't have even
after.
asked.
I have
Yeah.
a lot to say. Um, but yeah, any of that. But truly, and this is the thing about CMC. Like, I'm a fan of fans. I like passionate people. So if
Yeah.
you're a fellow CMCer and you've got something you want to talk about, the nerdier, the nicher, the better. Like, hit
Love
me
it.
up, and I'm probably down to clown. So
Love it.
see you in
Love
my
it.
DMs. I may or may
Love
not
it.
respond. Ask Camilo, but I see you.
Love it. We might need to have a second
No.
conversation about intellectually
Carter.
honest conspiracy theories
Oh.
and or rap, like hip hop in general. We could do like an
No.
album review or something. We didn't even get to talk about vultures,
We could
for
just
example.
well, and like we could just focus on the recent resuscitation of the Kendrick, Drake, J.
Right.
Cole, but J.
Right.
Cole stepped back out. Like
Right.
that's
Right.
an episode.
Right.
You know, I'm ready.
Tons of content. But for now,
Oh,
we're
I'm
good.
so
Lizzie,
proud
this
of
was
you. I am
thank you
so
so
proud
much.
of
Well, you're
you.
my
And
inspiration. You're my inspiration.
okay, well, low bar, aim
Truly,
high.
you doing the podcast was a hugely inspirational thing to me,
Oh,
and I'm so grateful to have you as a cheerleader as I do this. And yeah, I'm so
I
grateful
don't
for
think
coming
everyone
on.
should have a platform. I really mean it when I say you should. I listen to you
That's very
talk
kind.
endlessly.
Well, I'm
So,
trying. Like and follow, or like and
yeah, like and
subscribe.
subscribe for more
Like and
content.
subscribe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lizzie, you're the best. Be well. Slide into
Good
your
luck.
DMs to talk about all the things.
Yeah.
Take care.
Bye.